The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the podcast belong solely to the hosts and not the host's past, present, or future employers. Hey everybody, it's Brian for Breaking Down Security. This week we talk about the developer who created Atomic Rights, which is a program that was open source. However, because of certain requirements from the PYPI team, which is a Python repository, package repository, enabling 2FA to presumably shore up or mitigate some risks involved in supply chain security. Developer was unhappy with that and nuked their repositories because they were unhappy with being considered a critical application. So we talk about some of the implications of that. Full disclosure, I do get a little ranty during this discussion. I still am kind of ranty. If you are interested, I also did another partial stream on the 12th on our Twitch that kind of continues with that question. We actually had somebody join our Discord voice chat, and we kind of discussed things like liability and some licensing things. So if you're interested in understanding that, you'll hear a lot of stuff that you may disagree with on this podcast, and there may be some things that I hope will make you go, which I'm hoping that is more the case than the disliking of the podcast. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to join us on our Discord or our Slack, discord.gg/breaksec. And if you'd like to listen to the July 12th stream where I kind of continue on discussing this with a member of our BreakSec community on Discord, grab a subscription or do a Prime subscription to twitch.tv/breaksec, and grab the 12 July VOD. So also, this is part of about an hour and 10 minutes. So you're going to hear about 45 to 50 minutes of audio, but we had another 20 minutes or so of just us vamping, and there's some other content available that you might have missed if you're just listening to the audio show. So grab a subscription or a Prime subscription and, listen to the whole thing, and you will actually see us on screen. So that may be something else as well if you want a video component. So, all right, have a great week and talk soon. Mr. Betcher, I don't know if you've been following Twitter. Ms. Berlin, I asked her this beforehand. She hadn't heard of this. There was a couple of items of drama on Twitter this weekend. The one is about Jonathan Scott, which I've commented on Twitter. Thoroughly disreputable person, as far as I know. And because I don't have any direct dealings with him, I've just seen what he posts online. It's just not very good. And there's a lot of other folks that have definitely used a lot of ammo on him. You can go check online and see what he's posted and whatever. But the thing that got me is PYPI. And so, Mr. Betcher, you are a developer. You don't open source your stuff. I mean, you have a freemium model for LogMD. Ms. Berlin probably works with a little bit of open source software. So PYPI is a Python. I think everybody can see this screen. It is a Python package indexer. It is a repository of software for Python programming language. So, there we go. So this is very similar to NPM that we've had Adam Baldwin on talking about back in the day. This is a way for people to pull packages down to build software. And they had sent out an email to everybody saying, hey, if you're in the top 1% of, or what we call critical applications, I don't want to say good news, but because of security and supply chain security issues, we are going to, oh, well, there you go. We've rolled out a 2FA requirement. So soon maintainers of critical projects must have 2FA enabled to publish, update, or modify. So CRUD operations. To ensure these maintainers are using strong 2FA methods, we're also distributing 4,000 hardware security keys, which is pretty cool. Somebody who runs specifically this program, Python Atomic Rights, had misread the email, or it wasn't communicated very well. And he says, PYPI wants me to enable 2FA because I maintain this package. Just because I maintain this package. He used the word just. And both that and the mess resulting from a stunt of mine, I thought it'd be a good time to deprecate this package. All right, so that was the outcome of all of this. What had happened was he did basically a leaf pad event. He said, F this, I'm out, and I'm going to delete all the versions of software that I have. And, you know, because I'm critical, I can delete all the copies of software that I have, and that'll reset my download counter, and I won't be considered critical anymore. That obviously caused some problems because it was breaking builds, because people link directly to these packages without necessarily doing all the necessary things that most companies should do, like create their own backups or create forks or whatever, like Ms. Berlin had mentioned before we started talking. This caused some consternation to the open source community, obviously, where people were talking, well, you know, I put out shit and I don't expect anybody to, you know, it's pretty much, you know, I put out code and I don't have to, you know, I shouldn't have to worry about supporting the code that I put out. And, you know, the PYPI folks actually, Donald specifically, Donald, his name is where is it? Donald Stuffed. Here you go. Stuffed. Actually has done a great job of talking through this with folks, but this isn't the first repo that's had issues where developers are like, yeah, I don't want to enable 2FA. I'm just not going to do that. I think we've seen that in the past where people like working on the Linux kernel don't want to sign their updates or you know, implement what we would consider security on their stuff, because, you know, they feel like, you know, they should be able to maintain this with no security whatsoever. And, you know, the results be damned. They don't have a responsibility to even push patches. Some of these folks said, I can just put code out here. I can do, and I can use, and I can contribute as much as I want to, and I shouldn't have to worry about dealing with any of this. So it come out that, you know, he deleted all these things and he thought that would, you know, remove the critical requirements because it reset his download counter, but he was getting 5.5 or 5.8 million downloads a month. Donald and them were actually able to restore these things. But yeah, my problem is we have people who create open source software, and yes, they do have a point. I put code out there. I shouldn't have to worry about fixing things. You know, it really depends on why they're releasing these things in the first place. But, I don't know. I don't want to be ranty about this, but there are a lot of folks out there. I don't know why they do open source. Why do people put out open source software? Why do they think that they're doing it? I mean, I just don't understand. It's like I put this thing out and I don't care for it. I don't put value in it because you know, it's my time and effort, but you know, I don't understand.
I don't know. I guess if someone spends that much time creating something, maybe they have the right to pull it at some point.
Sure.
Because it's theirs.
Nobody's paying them for it.
Okay.
If they were paid, then there's an obligation. But, you know, if it's free and it's a volunteer effort, they can do what they want, really.
Okay.
People have the right to copy it.
Is it moral to like do that? And like, I mean, you can do whatever you want and people can just call you a dick.
It is immoral if you have the intention while you're creating it of doing that, but not if you had no intention. Now, can we actually see intent? No.
Well, actually, yes, you can.
We can't prove intent.
Well, okay. In this case, yes, you can. In this case, yes, you can. Let me scroll down, and I actually had a link in there.
I like
said,
this one.
You know,
Let's be clear. I help maintain some very widely used software. If you think that OSS developers have no responsibilities, then you think it's perfectly fine for me to release a version of that software that'll RMRF your computer, install rootkit, or adds it to my botnet.
Yeah, I've decided to deprecate this package. While I do regret having deleted the package and did end up, I think Python's sudden change in rules and bizarre behavior with regard to package deletion doesn't make it worth my time to maintain the software for free. I'd just rather write code for fun and actually worry about supply chain security when I'm actually paid to do so. So, you know, because they were implementing 2FA and he misread the email that they sent out, and they did actually say, I probably could have been a bit more clear in answering this. The email did say, we're going to do it soon, not, hey, we're going to do it now. And so this person said, fuck it, I'm going to crash the bus. And, you know, I'm going to take all these people with me. And instead of doing what he should have done, which was unmaintain the project, I'm just going to walk away. I'm just not going to maintain this anymore. When you put code out there, and I look forward to people's angry emails and blah, 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 open source, whatever. You put the code out there. Did he need to delete the repos? Why couldn't he just walk away from it? Why couldn't he just leave it unmaintained in his GitHub? Or, you know, do like he did now. He's like, hey, I've decided to deprecate this package. Or as he said on his own GitHub,
that's what people most usually do, right? They say unmaintained and they tag it. They tag it in GitHub.
Yeah. He said, Python 3 replaced most of what I have put out for most use cases. So he could have just put that and said, I don't want to play in PYPI anymore. Now he has 18 other PYPI projects. And because of that, I guess he realized, well, I'm going to have to put 2FA on this, because at some point, any of those other 17 that he has in PYPI might become critical or popular in this case. So my thing is, what motivates people to put out open source software? If it's not to make money, because obviously they're not, because they're bitching because they're not getting paid. If they're not doing it to be popular, then what's the point of putting something out like that? I don't have a third, because I don't know what motivates people to put out open source software. I mean,
you could put out open source software to be malicious on purpose.
Oh, okay. That is okay. But by being popular, you can become malicious. And in this case, he did become malicious by being popular. But my point is, if you're not doing it to get paid, because obviously you're not, and you are not doing it to be popular or critical in this case, what's the motivation? You know, I made the comment. I was like, well, what happens if Linus Torvalds just says, I don't want to deal with the Linux kernel anymore. Fuck y'all, I'm out. And then he deletes all the Linux source. You know, how many builds is that going to break by people? You know, he decides he wants to just nuke everything and go. There's nothing stopping him from doing that
somewhere.
There's nothing stopping him from doing that. And this is kind of the thing that I've had about trust models.
I feel like there is probably in that case. That's a big...
Yes.
Right. At a certain point.
Yes. But the point still holds, maybe not necessarily with the Linux one, but there are numerous other applications out there that, like the LeafPad shit, where it was like some guy just said, I'm going to delete 17 lines of Python code. And he borked hundreds of thousands of things. For me, I'm just like, I don't get it. I'm not a developer, you know. I develop an open source product. I would argue that this podcast is open source, but I am also, you know, eliciting people to, you know, subscribe on our Twitch and whatever. So it is we are making money for the nonprofit that we have. You know, I would argue that, you know, I'd love to be making about $10,000 more so I could concentrate on this full time and I wouldn't have to work for the company I work for. But, we make money for this. It is an open source product. Anybody can download it. Anybody can listen to it. Anybody can use it for whatever they wish. If it's gone, people may be sad. It may impact some people if they were ever using it for, like, curriculum or what have you.
Yeah, but you wouldn't just be like, oh, we're going to be done podcasting and now I'm going to delete everything from everywhere.
Right. I'm
just deleting all of the podcasts from all of the Twitch streams and all of the all of the sites.
Right. I mean, I have deleted a few just recently because of a certain guest that we had on who's a shitbag that I have deleted those MP3s out of Libsyn, and they cannot be downloaded anymore. But it's not like I'm going to be like, this is the last episode and I'm going to delete everything when we're done. And, you're not going to be able to have any more of that. So, fuck y'all. So, Mr. Betcher, let me ask you a question. If you decided to make LogMD open source tomorrow, what would be, if you decided to put out another product, for instance, why would you put out an open source product? Is there any reason for you to put out an open source product?
Altruism. I mean, it might help the world. If I take the time, it would be because I like to do that. It's a hobby, right? So I would put that out because I'm building something for my own sake, and I'd like to share it. Now, eventually, people go postal just because it becomes too cumbersome, and it never stops. You reach a point to where you go over that edge, and it's no longer fun. It's no longer a hobby. It's something that you have to do. Now you're obligated to maintain it at some point, right?
Sure.
So I think people reach that point if their software gets more popular, like in this case, you just can't take it anymore. And I guess the requirement for 2FA just put them over the edge.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah. There's a ton of supply chain is a problem, right? He gets 5.8 million downloads a month. At least that's what I had read. So there are 5.8 million opportunities to put malware into somebody's application somewhere.
Yeah, and if you think about it from like PYPI's point of view, like I guess I would probably force it on everybody, not just.
Well, that was phase 3. They
downloads,
did,
right?
Yeah, they did say currently it's just going to be critical applications, one in the top 1% of downloads. Now, whether that's a legit metrics, I don't know, but they went with the data that they had, and they figured downloads equals popularity.
They started somewhere, right? They can't boil the ocean.
Right. Refine and refine and repeat and iterate through. But so, yeah, at some point they said like phase 3 was going to be everybody has 2FA. And to sweeten the pot, they made hardware keys, which, are nice, a nice way of implementing 2FA. It's a Titan key, or it's a thing like I've got where you just plug it into USB, you tap the fucking thing and you go. This is why we have supply chain security issues. I mean, I was reading this. I was reading Donald last night explaining to a developer why 2FA is needed. And I'm like, you're a developer, I try to remember that some of these people aren't developers at a real job, like a real company. They, do some of this stuff in their off time. So they may not understand how 2FA works, or, and maybe they don't like it at their current job. So they don't want to have it when they go home and, do other coding.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, I can't imagine being a program. I mean, maybe it's just because we're in security so much, and every developer that I talk to is like basically in security.
Right.
It's just hard to, I don't know. It's just hard to understand why someone would be so mad, because like if you set up a new Gmail account, they force you to 2-factor auth.
Oh,
right?
Is that new? I don't.
No, it's been that way for a while. Like a new Gmail account, you are required to set up 2-factor auth. Otherwise, you're not going to get a Gmail account.
Right. Yeah.
There's other services like that too. Like, I mean, our product, like you don't have a choice. Like you set up 2-factor auth or you don't get in.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't. Yeah. I was like, I actually said, Dev doesn't give a shit how many people, corps, whatever they affected. I mean, they're not just affecting corporations. And, the argument is like, well, the Amazons and the Googles and the Microsofts of the world are using my code and I don't want them to because, I'm against all corporations, whatever. There are people, actually real people, other people that are not part of those big corporations still using this stuff. Right. And, the one thing that got me was like, we have the copy left, like GPL has this copy left. It's like what you expect to do if you use the code. Like you have to share the code. If you have to share the modifications to the code if you use it. You have to have the ability to give people that code somewhere on a GitHub repo or what have you. It feels like that there needs to be, I don't want to, I'm not going to say I hate to say this, but there needs to be a developer like responsibility code or something like that. It's like, look, you're putting out something that is popular. When you join PYPI, we expect
it's in
you
the
to
terms and
maintain
conditions.
Yeah, that nobody fucking reads. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. And there were some good points in these articles. I mean, there are so many threads on this thing right now. I mean, there's folks saying that like, hey, I work in academia. It is required for me to publish, which includes the code that comes with it. And every time I put out code, it causes me more time and effort to deal with. I actually have to maintain this stuff. I mean, there are some very good reasons why you have to maintain this code, but I just don't understand how, see, it literally takes more work to delete the whole thing and re-upload it than it did to set up 2FA, which itself makes more work than just leaving it to exist there as is forever, like he decided to do anyways, just after fucking everyone over, LMO. Yeah. So, I had read that the dev misunderstood the email stating everything would be happening soon and thought soon was today and nuked everything. I don't know, to reset their download counter so they wouldn't be considered critical. I don't know what they considered to be, what the criteria for critical was, but I was on my meme game, I think, at some point there. So, okay, let's talk about this. We have PYPI, and I don't know what they're planning on doing with this. I would hope that they're going to have an after action report or a blog post on something like this. I'm sure that he's not going to be the only person to rage quit, but this is not the first time we've seen developers nuke shit, whether it be the color and faker stuff, which happened back in January, because that person obviously is a terrorist because they found bomb making materials in his house. This guy who just decides, I'm just going to, nuke everything and go, or the leap pad person. How do you explain to management, hey, you know what? We need to have in our threat model, some guy just decides he wants to up and quit and delete something that's really critical to us. I mean, this is where people don't track their dependencies and they're going to get into trouble. That means companies like Sync or, other ones like that, or, undertaking something with your internal developers to audit your dependencies. How many people love doing that? I would ask them.
Well, there's programs that do that.
Sure, if they're used, right? And maintained and have a software bill of materials, which, is still getting somewhat wide adoption.
Yeah. For example, we acquired a company a few years ago that we actually ran code scanners, and we basically told them, look, by law, you've got to open source your code,
right.
Your proprietary software, right? Because of the copyright. And a lot of companies don't realize that. They just trust their developers that they're developing and not copying from the internet. And so, there's a responsibility there that PYPI is putting on their creators that says, well, we're protecting the people who are downloading your software.
Yeah.
As well as your reputation at some point. Because if someone were to hack in and, let's say, put some malware in their downloads without them knowing it, they're actually protecting everyone in that case.
Right. And go ahead.
And to a point, isn't that what app developers have to go through, as far as if you want to put something on the Google Play Store or anything like that? I imagine.
Sure. Yeah, there's a vetting process or whatever. I mean, you can't just blindly put shit up into that. Or
I did put a link up there that one of our people at work shared. That was kind of interesting. It was
the Reddit thing.
Yeah. On where'd it go? Paying people to spread malware. Some.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. I will post that into the stream chat. If anybody has any questions in the stream chat, please feel free to ask them. Maybe you're an open source developer and you saw me tweeting something out and you're very unhappy and you're like, F this, I'm out. I would love to hear, if you're an open source developer, why you put out your code. If you're sharing a gift, yeah, you know what? Your gift is popular. Deal with it. Have a plan for when you're, I'm not saying it's ambition, right? But I mean, I've never expected our podcast to get fancy, but if we started having 1 million downloads a month,
we're going to have to 2-factor auth into Zoom.
Right. We'll have to set up, additional security controls, or I'd probably move off of Libsyn to something else that's a bit more secure, because they don't have 2FA, even though I've told them you fucking need to have 2FA because you're dealing with people's lives here. And they're like, oh yeah, that's coming soon. Yeah. 3 years ago, they said it was still coming soon. Wait, so
who's Anonymous Banshee?
Oh, what?
I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Well, that has happened before.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute. It's just supposed to be the two of us.
Yeah, right.
Right. And it just goes to it. That's what I don't understand about the open source community. Really. It's like, what motivates you? If it's altruism has a point, which is what we're having to deal with right now. I'm not getting paid. When you say that, your altruism goes out the door. That means the goodwill that you thought your code was granting or generating no longer is worth the time and effort.
I mean, think about this podcast. Though. Can someone sue him?
I'm not getting paid.
Right? Can someone sue him for?
I was thinking of that. Let's say.
I really don't think so, because it's his code. He didn't sign any papers. He puts it out there for people to just grab. It's a gift. All right. It's a gift.
I hear you.
And
let me ask this question.
The giving.
Let me ask this question. So, nuclear reactor using an open source product to monitor something.
Sure, but they still have a current version locally. It's not like they're running what was in GitHub.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay, so nuclear reactor.
Maybe if they had to roll back, it would be bad.
Okay. Nuclear reactor.
Or reinstall. Yeah.
Nuclear reactor. Atomic rights.
Running Python.
Fuck, I don't know.
Me neither.
So Super Lolly, thank you so much, sir, for joining us. It is Monday morning, his time, early. So he said I would contribute to open source if I got the skills, mostly because open source allows me to learn for free. Very, very true. Open source also allows people to get jobs. Hey, I have this module, I do this, whatever.
Yeah, people bring it up during interviews all the time. Like, here's my GitHub. Go ahead and look at my repos and my commit history. And
it is definitely a way to create reputation, which is its own form of currency. There is a point at which that currency no longer makes sense. And that was not a pun. That was no pun intended there. But, all right, so let me go back to my scenario here. A critical piece of hardware, or let's say a jet plane or something, is in flight, uses open source software. Atomic Rights blows his shit up, and an update is pushed with Atomic Rights in it. Or, Atomic Rights, somebody decides, I'm gonna get into this guy's repo. His password is, I love Austria, because I think the guy was in Austria or some shit. Drops a bunch of malware and then pushes those patches. And somebody pulls those packages down, builds it into their system, and in the middle of an airline flight, 10,000 flights fall out of the sky because somebody put malware in there.
Yeah, and I think that's two different scenarios, though, right? That's a scenario where, one, he didn't set up 2-factor auth, and 2, where he blew up his account and everything's gone. Like, I think keeping it there and not setting up 2-factor auth and getting hacked and getting stuff pushed out is worse than everything being deleted.
That's fair. But PYPI is doing this not only to protect the developer's reputation and themselves, but everybody else in the world who don't
uses
follow
that.
good guidelines, which is, fork your own copy, maintain your own bullshit, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
PYPI is trying to protect everybody here, including PYPI's reputation, right?
Yeah.
And you have one leg of this relationship being the developer who does not want to do that. Now, if I was PYPI, I'd be like, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Right.
Bye-bye from PYPI, that kind of thing.
I don't, like, they did him a big solid, actually, like, restoring that.
Right. Oh, yeah, 100%.
They didn't have to do shit.
Yeah, he uploaded a new version, which killed his download counter, but he will be considered critical infrastructure until he decided to deprecate it. And he did, because he's like, oh yeah, Python 3 is good to go. I think these kinds of things really mean that people need to start looking at shit like this and these fart apps or these leaf pads that are 17 lines of code, or, pieces of code that verify whether or not you have an if loop or not. There's a bunch of bullshit that is put inside of code that probably shouldn't be there, right? Maybe start reducing the number of dependencies you have externally. My only worry for that is how much extra work will that be for developers if they don't, import 500 dependencies? How much more code are they going to actually have to write or copy paste and share because they forked their copies, or how much additional time is that going to be?
The cost of business. I mean, if you don't have testers, every time you do an update, you're taking risks.
Yeah. So what happens on Monday after somebody, maybe there's a manager out there who's seen this diatribe here. Maybe they were affected by it, or maybe they don't even know they were affected by it because it happened on late Friday. They push out an update and, everything breaks for them. The manager says, yeah, we need to, what do the developers say if the manager's like, yeah, we're not going to handle, external, dependencies anymore. We need to, make sure we're starting to fork everything, and, 2FA is a good idea. Let's set all that up for our own code commits. What if other developers don't want to do that? Is it because they're getting paid? Then they should have to just grin and bear it, or,
Yeah, I think so. There's a cost to that, right? There's a cost in less productivity or monetary costs, right? You need more resources if you're going to crank out the same amount of code that you have been in the past. So yeah, it's definitely a cost. So you have to weigh those.
Yeah. So Mr. Betcher, do you have 2FA on your code repos?
My code repos are local. They're all on my local machine. I don't push them to the cloud unless I put a backup, and my backup is encrypted with 256 AES.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I do that. When I do several hours of coding, I'll put a backup in the cloud.
Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. So Super Lolly says, I'd say probably need to be off the open source once you need to protect critical stuff like employees' privacy, your confidential prototypes, etc. Okay, that's a good point there, Super Lolly. Hey, Digital Warhead, what's up? Howdy. How you doing? We're talking about open source and why people, use it, and I'm a little confused, and it's probably my okay boomerness asking, why people give shit away for free, but.
Out of the kindness of our hearts.
To a point.
Fair.
To a point. Mr. Betcher and I, we started this podcast with the idea that it was going to help us get better jobs. I'm still waiting for that to happen. It seems to work fairly well for Mr. Betcher, but there's going to come a point where, this open source project is going to go away too. I can't imagine it's going to happen forever, but at some point it'll be like, Break 6 got to go because we're not making enough money, or, it's, the altruism is gone.
We're tired.
We're tired of the shite. So
I'm tired all the time.
Yeah. So yeah, Digital Warhead says volunteering on an open source project is a great thing to put on your resume. Yes, it is. Again, to a point, if it's all that you have on your resume, that's probably not a good idea. But, so yeah, that was like the big thing that pretty much took up my whole weekend, other than trying to get OBS to work on Linux and failed miserably. So I'm back on Windows now. And it's, yeah, I'm constantly futzing with things, and I probably shouldn't, but it's really hard to, and this is actually an open source problem. The drivers for Ubuntu don't run my graphics card when I'm doing things in OBS. And so I, tried to put on the NVIDIA drivers that come out that are proprietary, and it just doesn't work. I was getting like 20 frames per second audio, and it was just really garbage, and I couldn't get 60 frames on my output. So,
last time I spent time on my own doing Linux was when I was trying to build a cool drive, right? A new file system.
Okay.
And I spent the entire weekend trying to get that thing running.
Oh yeah.
And totally failed miserably.
What were you using? Was it like Gentoo or some awful thing like that, or Arch?
No, I tried Debian.
Okay.
And yeah, and then I went to Fedora to see if they had it better. Right. Yeah. So yeah, it was a new file system, and I ran into some issues with, okay, we can't use this because the licensing doesn't match. There were two different models.
Right.
And so I was like, really? Seriously, people? So yeah, never worked out. And I was like, okay, I wasted 2 days. Not going to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. I have, I was setting up the Ubuntu over there on my server, which is that way, because I was working on a CTF for the conference, the InfoSec Campout, trying to create a boot to root kind of thing. It's painful. So,
my whole team switched to Ubuntu except me. I'm still on a Mac because I'm stubborn. Yeah.
See, if you're doing coding and whatever, it's fine. But it was like I was trying to use proprietary NVIDIA drivers. I was trying to use my DSLR on it, which didn't always work. Had to do some workarounds for that. It was real hacky, and I was like, all right, fuck it. I'll just let my computer sound like a jet engine. You know what? I just thought of something else. So going back to the open source thing, so. The guy gives up or stops maintaining it, and there's vulnerabilities in it. What are people's options? They have to either take it in and maintain it themselves in-house, or they go and they see something on Twitter where it's like, hey, we got a patch for, this latest thing that was a problem, and that goes to malware. Or, the reason that people are downloading it from that guy is because he's the single point of truth. He is, you're not going to download Windows from a, Microsoft.ru site. You're going to download it from Microsoft.com. You're not going to download whatever atomic rights from some god-awful, fork somewhere. You're going to download it from the guy who wrote the damn software.
You would think there would just be some kind of pull request that, even if it's not maintained and somebody does a pull request and says, hey, I fixed this vulnerability, you would think they'd be like, all right, I'll maintain it like this once, just to add the fix.
That's true.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I know people that haven't have gone, so they're not maintaining something anymore, and they also don't want to give up ownership of it. They won't just give it to somebody to take over.
Right. Is this an example of poor management on open source's part? Because the guy's not managing the software properly. He's maintaining it, and he's tired of maintaining it, which means he's tired of managing the software. He's not done anything to nurture the maintenance of it. He's not done anything to compel or to make people want to help him, which is, I think, what we've seen with folks like, not Malware Bytes, I forget his name, Crack Map Exec, the guy who did Crack Map Exec. We had him on the podcast because very similar. Nobody's doing pull requests. Nobody's doing packaging and stuff like that.
Mhm.
What are open source people to do to help, create a community, to encourage people to want to help him or them? I definitely can understand, yes, it does take a lot of time to do. And then he's just like, I'm out. If it takes a lot of his time and, he's getting hundreds and hundreds of bug requests or feature requests or whatever, there's got to be ways to build a community or to, make it so that others are getting involved with your application's development. And it sounds like part of being a maintainer of an open source project is to nurture and to make it a community almost, like if it's important enough. The problem is nobody's going to build a community around a 17-line piece of code, which is another failing of open source. You got to have people who want to care about it, but nobody does. Or it's like open source is many eyes on the code, right? But everyone else assumes everyone else's eyes is on it, so nobody actually looks at it. I don't have a low opinion of open source. I actually kind of like it. I just don't understand the people that build it and then, for altruism's sake, and then want to turn that into real money. So there.
Yep.
I'm a bad person. I know. I don't get it.
You said it, man. No,
I don't get it. I just don't get it. Either that or it's a sign of maturity on their part. It's like, once this is mature and, once it's in the nascent phase and you nurture it and you hatch it from the egg, and then it's a big, ugly, manatee and you don't know what to do with it. So, but anyway, yeah. Any other questions from our esteemed stream chat here? Digital Warhead, Super Lolly. Any questions? Any thoughts about open source? I know Super Lolly did mention a few things which were excellent. Anything that could be used to fix the issue. Is 2FA really that difficult to install? I mean, I set up 2FA. I have hundreds of 2FA accounts on my phone right now. I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, I've got, got all kinds of stuff here,
Yeah, I have pages and pages and pages.
Yeah. I mean, they build up over time, even stuff that I don't use anymore,
I have like 20 test accounts in Microsoft.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, oh, you're making me set up 2FA for all of these.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the hardware keys was maybe the developer thought that was the only way they were going to enable 2FA. I have 2FA on my GitHub and I ain't got shit on it except some markdown files for role-playing games, but I don't have a problem with that, yeah. It just boggles the mind that we're having to explain to developers in 2022 what 2FA is. So, all right, well, yeah, I mean, that pretty much took up all my time this weekend was, reading through some of these things. The paying people to spread malware is an interesting bit. I was scrolling through some freelance gigs on Upstart and came over this. Release our game apps, your Google Play Store. This person offers to pay you $20 if you upload his apps to your Google Play Store account. From what I can tell, there's two possibilities. Either Google can't operate legally in his country. In that case, he can probably just use a proxy company in another. Or more likely, he's wanting to spread malware and not get his account banned. I could see number two being a definite option there. That's interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, Mr. Betcher, any other thoughts? Ms. Berlin, I know Ms. Berlin said she only wanted to go about an hour on this, and I think technically we're a little bit over. But
on the malware thing, just assume positive intent and go ahead and take the 20.
Thoughts, theories, and other things expressed by members of our
not with my Google account.
Yeah. Take the $20. That's it, Mr. Betcher. That you can be bought for $20.
$20.
That's not even a tank of gas, man.
It's not even an ounce of silver. Well, maybe.
Yeah. I just think that we're going to start seeing more of this. This won't be, I mean, maybe some developers who are thinking about doing what Atomic Rights guy was doing, was like, oh, maybe I should just walk away from it. It would be interesting to see how many people decide they want to walk away, because at that point, you also published a PYPI to get popular or to be used, right? It is a
Yep.
a repo that people point to because they trust the packages and software, because PYPI trusts the developers that are in there. I really would love to do a talk on trust models and how we generate trust today, because we have Bitcoin and fucking like true trust by association, or trust because somebody says something is good and it's immediately good. It's very cult-like, our trust these days,
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's very, very cult-like. Anyway, I don't have anything else. So, yeah. Miss Berlin, you said you're going to be in San Diego, but not security related. You're not going to go to Vegas, are you? You're in that area. You're only 90 minutes to 2 hours away by flight. So
Nope.
Okay.
Just,
cool.
I mean, I'm going to Vegas for DEF CON, but I'm not this weekend. No.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm tour camp is this week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Oh, okay.
Sunday. So
Okay.
yeah. One of my colleagues is going up there to camp, so it'll be just
we're gonna
me
go
security.
Play around in the ocean and go eat some good tacos and just hang out with my family.
Yeah. Fish tacos, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Great food.
That's not gross, people. You don't taste the fish. Trust me. It's good.
They're good.
Yep.
Yep.
Rubio's used to be the go-to place for fish tacos down there, but I think there's probably a couple of other places now to get fish tacos.
Okay.
So I wonder if he's going to take you to Coronado, or if he's going to take you down to La Jolla Beach or what have you. So that'll be interesting. So
I've been to both before when I went and visited him.
Yeah, Coronado's amazing. Yeah, it's awesome. It's right next to the naval base over there. So
yep.
Hey, GoPro Soloyo, what's up? Thank you.
And I got to sit in a jet the last time I went out and hung out with him.
Really? Like what, an FA-18 or something? Like a Hornet?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Nice. You said Marine Corps base, so I assumed Hornet. So not Tomcat, because that's Navy plane.
Yeah. I don't think I'll get to sit in the ones that Michael works on. They're kind of picky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unless they're stealth fighters or F-35s,
they're F-35s, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if you're allowed to just take random visitors to see F-35s.
I'm thinking you have to have a security clearance to get in the F-35s.
Probably.
Yeah. And I'm sure he has a security clearance because he has to maintain them. So he knows where the skeletons are buried. So cool. All right. Well, I'll let you go, Ms. Berlin, Mr. Betcher. Thank you both for coming. We'll put this podcast out in the next couple days. Yeah, we're always looking for speakers and for topics. So for stream chat people, if you're interested in coming on, maybe talking about something, or if you
maybe sometime this Monday or Tuesday, we can get on and talk about the other thing we were going to talk about. If I can figure it out, maybe.
Okay. Tuesday we were supposed to have our session 2 of our reverse engineering course. Unfortunately, CyberSec Diva had a death in the family and a first cousin have an accident. So she's not going to be able to do it this week. So we're going to postpone it until next week. And I'm going to have to figure out how we're going to plan to do the rest of the classes, because I'm going to be in Europe, and the current timeline is going to put us where her last class is going to be like 2 weeks into my vacation. So we're going to have to figure out how we're going to get back on track, or if we're just going to delay the final 2 classes. So we are doing some regular training, malware analysis. So Mr. Betcher, this might be something interesting for you. We're actually going to be analyzing real malware in our class here. We're going to be setting up the VMs. We're going to be setting up everything using Remnux and Ghidra and IDA to, reverse engineer and, poke at some malware. So, might be something you might be interested in. I don't know. Miss Berlin, you as well, of course, you can poke around.
Zero interest. I like learning more, but I have no interest in reversing malware. Sorry.
Glowing recommendations by.
It's just not my thing.
Of...
It's not my thing. If I was going to learn more stuff, it would definitely be development stuff.
Okay, well.
There's only so many things that can fit.
Oh, you mean once it goes in one ear and you lose something like, pops out the other side?
Yeah. That's one of those things. Like my eyes just glaze over anytime I try. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna pass on that stuff.
No, that's fair. And I'm always up to learning new things, and I'm as much a student in that class as the other folks are. So, but yeah, I understand. It's not everybody's ball of wax.
I can still see paint everywhere on me.
Yeah. Oh.
I swear I showered.
Oh yeah. I have that problem too. I've rough elbow.
You can still see like 4 colors of paint on me.
Oh, that's right. You were painting. Yeah.
Yeah, I was painting for like 5 hours today.
Wow. Painting's tough. Tell you.
I just have people do it. I can't paint. So yeah. Anyway. All right. Ms. Berlin, tell people where they can find you, and we'll go and finish this bad boy up.
On Twitter, especially because I'm only like 30 or 40 something followers away from another big number. So go follow me on Twitter. Yeah. At InfoSystir, INFOSYSTIR. I think I'm so close.
Really?
29,932. All right, so 70. But
holy crap. Okay.
So close.
I'm real close to
I'm gonna like hashtag Bitcoin or something, and then just have a whole bunch of bots follow me.
There you go.
Wow. Yeah, InfoSystir, INFOSYSTIR. Mr. Betcher, how would people find you? And maybe tell them what LogMD is, since we kind of mentioned it a few times.
log-md.com. Yeah, go check it out. It's free, and it'll help you harden your system to prepare it for the attacks that'll eventually come your way.
Yeah, the malware that, it might be fun to put log-md on the Windows box that we might be running the malware on to see what happens. Maybe I'll do that separately, so that way it doesn't, oh, well, this malware just got completely around that. Okay, never mind. I'm not saying it will.
Well, it doesn't work like that.
Maybe I'll test it. Yeah. Oh, right. It just sets up well, I don't say it just. It sets up logging. It sets up monitoring. And okay. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, because Windows doesn't do a good job of setting good defaults for logging for folks.
It's got all the capabilities there, but
yeah,
they don't set those for you. So
right. Okay. Yeah. So BrakeSec on Twitter, BRAKESEC. You can follow me on Twitter, Brian Brake. Crypto Bro, get me a couple of hundred. That's for damn sure. Super Lolly. Here, let me put the link to LogMD, log-md.com. It is a free tool, but they do have a paid version. It has what does the paid version get you? Like timelining, and is there some other stuff involved with the paid version?
Static analysis, dynamic analysis.
He'll show up at your house for like parties.
Oh yeah. We'll even set it up for you. Yeah.
Nice.
A lot of other reports that are more customized, right? All right? So it's a little easier to work with than the free version.
Okay, there you go. So yeah, Super Lolly, if you're interested, log-md.com, and you can go check that out. Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming. Thank you all, Super Lolly and Go Pro Slow-Yo and Digital Warhead. And, we got a couple new followers. We got Saeed667, Les P Max. Thank you so much. And R Lie PPE for following. Thank you so much. Thank you all for doing that. I appreciate it. And a quick reminder, if you want to subscribe and get about 175 hours of content here on our Twitch, you can subscribe. Easy to subscribe. Just follow and then subscribe per month is like $4.99. If you have an Amazon Prime account, it's free, and you can do it just being a Prime member. So log in, and with your Prime account, you get We get a free subscription every month that you have to renew, but we get money from Amazon for that because Amazon is owned by Twitch, which I did not know that until just recently. So
Twitch is owned by Amazon.
Sorry, what?
Twitch is owned by Amazon.
Wait, what did I say?
Amazon's owned by Twitch.
Oh, yes, yeah. Sorry.
Like, that doesn't seem right.
Flip that around. Yeah, flip that around.
Awesome, interesting, but yeah.
That would be really interesting. Yeah.
Oh God, I need to go. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you, Miss Berlin. My edible's probably kicking in. And we'll. I'm going to be putting out some more videos soon. We'll definitely get the Sysmon thing on. I definitely want to do that. Maybe as a podcast that we can have while I'm out on vacation, because when I'm on European vacation, I won't be doing podcasts. We won't be doing podcasts. So we'll have audio podcasts and stuff available. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Take care. Be kind if you can to people. Find how to do that. And as always, take care of yourselves, because as we're fond of saying, you're the only you have. And we'll talk soon.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.